Welcome to the Renaissance of the Metaverse. This video is pre-recorded so a global audience of artists can watch asynchronously. For those of you who don't know, the Renaissance is a Build-a-thon event run by Mona. Mona is an organization with a very simple mission. We believe the metaverse should be open. Our goal is to provide creators with a platform to build, share, and experience incredible 3D spaces, all on the blockchain. We do this by enabling artists to build spaces, upload and mint them as NFTs in Mona to be available for others to collect and connect them together to create new virtual communities. This is the start of a new renaissance. The Renaissance is a 3D Build-a-thon event designed to spur the creation of new virtual worlds. It's an open call for architects, designers, and artists to build 3D spaces centered around three categories: spaces to gather, spaces to display, and spaces to perform. Think of this like a hackathon, but for building 3D worlds. It's an open call to create 3D spaces. The top spaces will be minted and purchased by our event sponsor, Protocol Labs. The top prizes are $30,000 each, and total prize money is $250,000. Spaces that are not selected as top winners or as winning spaces can still be minted and owned by the creators, and then free to use throughout Mona or even to sell to other collectors. So even if you don't win one of those prizes, you still get an incredible space that you can mint as an NFT and that you can use and sell to someone else. Here is the Renaissance agenda. We're kicking off this event today, right now. We're doing a Q&A event next week and a live virtual event inside Mona to announce the winners. Today is all about kicking off this exciting build bounty. The goal for this kickoff is to cover logistics for those of you building. Then we've got an amazing panel discussion on the metaverse. And then at the very end, we'll discuss the prizes. So what is a build-a-thon? This is Mona's second build-a-thon and the largest yet. We aim to do three main things with this build-a-thon. It's an open call to all 3D artists, architects, and game designers to start building in Web3. This is an opportunity to be part of a global community of builders aligned around a vision for an open, platform-agnostic metaverse. This is to spur the creation and use of new 3D spaces for communities to interact and collaborate. This is an open call. Right now, we have over 1,000 registered builders, and registration is open for another week. It blows our mind about the number of builders that are interested, and we could not be more excited about the incredible artists that have joined our Discord and really taken part in our community here. So if you haven't already, definitely dive into the Discord. We have an amazing community of supportive artists who are sharing their work, sharing tips and tricks, and we're here to answer questions. And we're giving away $250,000 in prizes. We're going to talk about the prizes at the end, but first we want to thank our sponsors, Protocol Labs. Protocol Labs is critical to the metaverse. They have created the metaverse building blocks like libp2p, IPFS, Filecoin, and NFT.storage. So a huge thank you to Protocol Labs for sponsoring this build-a-thon. Now, let's talk about how the build-a-thon works. We're going to go through some questions that you might be having. So first up, what can you build? And the answer is kind of anything. We want to make sure that you have the full creative freedom that you'd like. This is not designed to be structured. It's designed to break the boundaries and push the metaverse creation forward. So you're able to create in your 3D tools like Rhino, Blender, Cinema 4D, Maya, even VR tools like Gravity Sketch or Medium or Quill. Once you're done creating the building blocks for your space and those 3D models, you're going to bring them into Unity, into our Unity template, and then you're going to publish your 3D space inside of Mona. It's super easy to get started. Let's talk about build themes. builders are asked to build in 3 categories. Those are spaces to gather, spaces to display in, and spaces to perform in. Gathering spaces could be somewhere where you can meet and share big ideas. Display spaces are spaces where you can host and show and share incredible digital works of art and NFTs. And then event spaces could be any space that could be used for a live performance, like a music performance or even spoken word poetry inside the metaverse. Now in our Discord, you can get more direct feedback on ideas and what you can do. Now let's talk about the next 3 weeks, the whole timeline for the competition and the build process. The most important thing is communication. For this Build-a-thon, Discord is everything, so be sure to join the Discord. We have private channels reserved for participants only. We also have dedicated support channels where we have staff ready to answer questions, and we even have other members of the community chiming in and answering questions as well. We are going to be having weekly office hours inside Discord, and everyone who's RSVP'd, if you do not see a Renaissance header in your sidebar on Discord, make sure you ping us and we'll add you to make sure you have access to those channels. For this Build-a-thon, everything is going to be happening asynchronously. So builders are from all around the world. They're from all over. With this in mind, we will be having live events, but we're also going to be posting all of our talks online, so you'll be able to follow along on the schedule on the website. We're adding new events all the time, and everything is going to be available in our docs and in our Discord and online. And also be sure to follow us on Twitter, where we make frequent announcements. And in terms of timing, the Build-a-thon officially starts now. So now you can start working on your projects. There's going to be a maximum of 5 members allowed per build, as only one entity will get the actual prize. So you want to think about this in advance in terms of how you're going to split it and with tax implications and everything. And even though you can work as a team, you can still work solo as well. So keep that in mind. You're going to have 3 weeks to submit your build, and then we're going to go into the judging period, and we're going to wrap up with an event live streamed at the end. Let's talk about the rules and criteria next. The rules are simple. Most of this work must be done during this Build-a-thon. Submissions must be related to 3 categories, and loose interpretations are okay as well. The top winning spaces will be minted as NFTs and bid on and purchased by Protocol Labs. Submissions not selected will have their Mona space to use and hang out in and share with others, or even to sell to other collectors. Only RSVPs are going to be eligible to win, so make sure that you register and you complete all the processes in our docs so that you're eligible. And if you have any questions, remember at any time you can ask the Mona team. We're here to help. You may be asking, what if I'm new to building all this? This stuff can get kind of tricky, and we're all artists and we get it. We're building this together, and there are going to be special prizes for others along the way. It's possible to build solo. Many people are building solo. And just keep in mind, for the ones who are out there in the Discord helping each other the most, you're going to be eligible for a special community prize at the end. These we like to refer to as helper prizes. So the Mona team is going to be active, watching in the Discord and seeing who is most active and most helpful. We want to encourage everyone to help each other out and build each other up as we're accomplishing a major feat this month with this Build-a-thon. Now, what if you're really advanced at building? Well, we would love for you to share your knowledge. We need more metaverse builders. There's lots of empty land out there and opportunities. And so even if you're really advanced at building, it's a great opportunity here for you to share that knowledge with others and help build others up to a better level. We also have an Interactivity Bonus Prize for those who add novel interactivity into their spaces. So we just added a new feature called the Mona Reactor feature. This will enable you to program little interactions to happen with your avatar, things like triggering buttons or opening doors, and the sky is kind of the limit here. So you can even program a little mini game or scavenger hunt. A lot of exciting opportunities. So we are having a bonus prize for those who add the coolest interaction to their space. Note that interactivity is not a requirement for the competition and will not be used in overall judging. It's simply icing on the cake and an extra prize for someone who wants to try to go above and beyond. Let's talk about support. We are going to be having builder check-ins that will happen once a week. This is going to allow us to get you the help you need if you're stuck or if you need help unblocking on certain technical things that might come up during your build process. This is all going to happen on Discord, and we're going to publish the schedule so you'll be aware of when it happens. We're going to be available to offer any feedback along the way, and we expect and hope that you'll provide us with feedback as well. This is our second go at this, and we're learning and growing too. So we're going to be doing a feedback session in Discord once a week. That's going to be your opportunity to provide feedback on how you feel the Build-a-thon is going, and how you're feeling about the features in Mona and things that you want to see and things that we can do better to help you. We want to know what's working for you, what isn't, and how we can improve. And once again, this is also another opportunity for you to get the help that you might be needing if you have a burning question about what's going on with your build and your space. It's really important that throughout this process, we all help each other. We see the metaverse as being as open as possible, not just on Mona, but across many verses. We love the existing builders and decentralized worlds that are out there, and we all want to work together. So for this, while there are big prizes, we want everyone to lift each other up. That's the world that we want to live in, virtual or physical, one in which we build each other up and not tear each other down. Again, the ones who help out the most will be eligible for a special community prize, so keep that in mind. Now let's talk about judging. When the final submission deadline is coming up, we're going to ask you to submit your build. This is going to be done through a submission form. Now, the following are going to be the submission requirements, and those are the name of your build and the description of your build, the description for your space. You're going to need to include a high-resolution photo. This is very important because this is actually how your space is going to be viewed. It's actually going to be part of the minted data with your space. So think of this photo as a way to showcase the best of your space. It's what's going to show up as a tile on the website and the homepage when people go to explore spaces, and it's also going to be showing up on OpenSea on your listing page. If you need help capturing a high-resolution photo, we're here to help. Just ask us in the Discord and we'll be able to give you some pointers. A thing to note when you're capturing the photo, if you're taking a screen grab inside the space, you'll want to press the U button on your keyboard so that you hide all the UI, so that you just get a clean, beautiful shot of your space. Alternatively, you could also take a screenshot or a render inside of Unity before uploading to the web browser as well. You'll also need a short video preview to submit with your space. This is also important, and all of the instructions on how to capture a video preview are in our Mona documentation. The video preview should also be highly polished, as this is also going to show up partly on the Mona website, but also on the OpenSea listing page as part of your item description there. Once again, all of the information is listed in our documentation, so feel free to take a look, and if you have any questions, as always, we're here to help. Finally, you're going to need to submit a build package. This is easy to do, and it's all outlined in our documentation. We're going to be planning for a January 27th deadline. This is a tight timeline, and we get it, and we want you to build together and quickly, and this is all towards going towards some incredible prizes. This is a build-a-thon, and so the whole idea is that it is a bit of a challenge, and we're really excited about what was created during the last build-a-thon, so we have high hopes for what you're going to create this time around as well. It's important to note, be sure to test your build in advance. We have all of our links in our docs, but you're going to test your build at mona.gallery/playground. You'll want to make sure that it works properly before you submit it. All of our judging will be centered around the utility of the spaces, but the aesthetic interpretation is where you can let your imagination run wild. Builders can create worlds using their existing 3D modeling workflow in tools such as Rhino, Blender, Gravity Sketch, Cinema 4D. Then you can import them into Unity using our Mona Unity template. Final submissions are in the form of Unity packages that can be easily exported and published to the metaverse using the Mona web portal. A full outline of the process, including easy-to-follow tutorials, are available in the documentation, that we're going to be listing on our competition website and in the Discord as well. All entries will be created and owned by the designers themselves. The winning entries will be purchased. This is important to note. This is unlike any other design competition you may have heard of. With this Build-a-thon, once again, the space that you create, you're actually going to own that NFT. That is yours. The winning spaces will be purchased, and then even if you don't win, you still own that beautiful space that you built, and it's yours to go and sell to another collector or even to use inside of Mona using our many multiplayer utilities. The Renaissance will be judged by a panel of industry experts. These experts include CEO of Protocol Labs, Juan Benet, and the rest of the panel will be announced in February. All entries must be received by midnight Pacific Time on January 27th, 2022. All entries received after this date and time will not be considered. The winners will be announced and published in February 2022. We can't stress this enough, but it is super important to read the docs, read our Mona documentation. We are continuing to add more and more details to these, so if there's anything you have questions about or if you have feedback on, let us know. Each day they're getting better and better, and with your help, we're going to make them even greater. If something doesn't make sense, just let us know. And if you have a suggestion, please feel free to drop it in the Discord. Finally, remember, pace yourself. We want you to have fun with this. This is a moment to remember. You're about to be part of an incredible community of builders creating the future of the open metaverse. This is a moment in history. This is a new renaissance, a renaissance of the metaverse. This is such a huge opportunity to learn and experiment together. Now, we'll be hosting an amazing talk with Juan Benet. We're going to be talking about what's possible in the metaverse and what the future of this is going to look like. So let's dive right in. Welcome, Juan. Great to have you here with us again and supporting builders from all over the world creating the metaverse. First, let me take some time to highlight some developments in the metaverse since we last spoke. We've seen a lot of growth around the concept of the metaverse in the past few months, kicking off with the company formerly known as Facebook, making a big splash, rebranding as Meta, brands entering the metaverse at a rapid pace and going all in, for example, Nike buying Artifact, a virtual goods brand, and the rise of avatar projects, and so much more. So to start, I'd love to ask you, why now? Why is now the time for the metaverse to grow compared to, say, 2019 or pre-pandemic? And will 2022 be the year of the metaverse?
It's a great question. And thanks for having me again. Always excited to talk to the Mona community and be here. Like super pumped for the Build-a-thon. So can't wait to see what everybody builds. So I think like this year has been, the last couple of years have been really big for the very direct reason that a ton of people are stuck at home and unable to see each other, and so they're looking for many more ways to engage and interact with each other through digital means. And so we're seeing just a huge rise in all kinds of digital entertainment, so movies and things like that, but also just ways to interact with each other. So games like Fortnite have seen a massive increase in participation because that's a way that tons of people hang out. I know many people now that their main mode of interaction is through games like that, and that's spend many more hours these days on those games because that's the way that they get to hang out with their friends and so on. And like I think like the generation of kids going through school around the world is connecting that way much more now than in what normally would have been extracurricular activities or sports or things like that. So I think like that has just pushed us ahead of the curve and maybe accelerated the timeline on people shifting over to metaverse like things by a few years. And so that's just created this amazing amount of energy and effort for it. And also because once people started doing running against the problems, people had and sort of like the problem was big enough and long enough that it enabled entire communities to start projects and companies around creating these experiences. So all of that put together means like you have this compounding effect where people are running against the problems, they're finding them. It's like, oh, isn't that hard to solve? Let's build a thing that like does this better. And so then, and they have the time and bandwidth to go work on it and so on. And people are many more people are encountering those problems and wanting to solve them. So that's been really great. Now, will 2022 be the year of the metaverse? Maybe. We'll see. I think like it'll be. There's some. I think a lot of really cool interactivity is going to arrive now, and certainly with the massive rise in NFTs in 2021. Like 2021 so far has been or was the year of NFTs so far. Maybe 2022 will be bigger, but we definitely saw a massive amount of creation of art that was fueled and funded by this new business model, this new creator economy that can enable that kind of dedication to that kind of work. And so if we create the tools for building these things and for interacting in these environments, and we make it really fun and exciting to hang out in this space, then yeah, we can maybe do that. I think that some interfaces like VR and AR are missing still to be able to have the super high quality experience. And so if like there'll be like the year of the metaverse, like we'll see. Also, we might have to find a different name and not call it metaverse, because like Facebook coming in and soiling the entire word by putting, rebranding as Meta is totally ridiculous. And so either we don't let them get away with it and somehow get that to be unwound, or we should find a different name and really invest in a different way to, I really like what you've been doing of like calling it the Monaverse, right? So like, fine, that's the metaverse, is the Monaverse. And a lot of people can have a different verse. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. But I think as a concept to refer to the whole thing, like we'll see what develops. Back in the day, this used to be called the cyberspace, right? So it's just at some point, like the cyber thing became like a government. It felt like old, and so people came up with new words. But yeah, which year will it be? I don't know. I think I do know that we'll see an enormous amount of stuff this year. So I'm super excited for all of the different kinds of things that will appear. But I also still see it as like exciting early days. It's kind of like when the web first arrived, when people were starting to create a bunch of web pages and like people were playing with a new medium and trying a bunch of things, and it was super generative, super fun time. So I see it more as like that period. And over time, all of this will get like much more fleshed out, and we'll see, new year over year, we'll see a ton of new kinds of interactions. So.
I guess like along that same thread, what are the things that you're most excited for this year in particular for the metaverse? Like what are some of your biggest hopes for it, and what has most delighted you to see so far?
So probably the most exciting part of it right now is that we're building the rails to build an economy where creators can do what they love and get well compensated for it, because that changes it from a dream into a reality. It just enables people to pursue their dreams and their career as an artist. And so creating the rails for people to have a well-paying, high-paying job creating their art and sharing it with the world, like that I think is like the most impactful, high-quality thing that I've seen, because that just enables thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, hopefully later on millions, to come together and share all of their amazing creativity with other people. So that's been like the most exciting thing. Now, in terms of like the specifics, I think I've been super excited about the ability to drop into a space and hang out in a totally new environment and just meet up with people and run around and talk with people and whatnot. I used to play a lot of video games, and so I'm used to that experience. I think there's still like a gap to close and to get to like the really high quality polish of a video game, but I think all of that is doable. Like I think we'll be there in like a year or 2 years, and so I can't wait to like interact. So in terms of like what I'm looking forward to, I can't wait to have a whole range of different kinds of interactions through these environments where we can now like play games together, or things like board games, or things like pseudo sports, right? Like a digital version of like kicking a ball around, or something like just spending time with other people, or something much more sophisticated like a full-on multiplayer game that would be traditionally some kind of a title that is perfectly developed around some game mechanic that needs to get a whole bunch of like really high quality art derived around it and then kind of mass marketed. We can now have thousands more games being developed around many different kinds of spaces. So I look forward to that. Like you could build like a game of tag or like an FPS type thing around any of the Mona spaces, and or go and like kick a ball around or throw a frisbee or whatever. Echo VR is a really cool game that is in Oculus, and I think that kind of game you could do in Mona spaces as well, right? Like you can create a whole range of different kinds of interactions, and so I really look forward to being able to now play around with all of that. Maybe VR, like really hooking up into VR and like making it possible to load these spaces there, hang out with people, hook into the AV paths there, and then be able to kind of like program different experiences. I think maybe like the gap to close is enabling a ton of developers to then now build amazing experiences on top of the spaces. So that's like step two. And then step three is like then combine those two, where like now the creators and the developers together are building really cool experiences and designing. You're now designing a room for certain kinds of experiences to happen and so on. And so like we have to like flesh out all of those possibilities before that starts happening.
What do you consider to be the core building blocks for the metaverse, and how do we enable those types of things to happen?
Yeah, so the key, I personally think that the metaverse is getting built out by being able to construct spaces, like physical spaces, and being able to have individuals that are interacting with those spaces, connect those spaces with other spaces, and have experiences with other people in those spaces. So the building blocks there are like, hey, you should be able to create a space and like mint it as an NFT and sell it to somebody, or you should be able to like load it in a browser like really easily, give somebody a link to come join you there, and you should have your avatar in there, and then you should be able to like interact with each other, and you should be able to like hear each other, and like thanks to you, now that's here. And so then from there, it's like, can you then start connecting these spaces in larger and larger amounts? Can you like start embedding spaces in other spaces? So like you have a really big space, can you embed some other smaller spaces? Can you place houses in like a large field, or can you start constructing cities and so on? Can I take like my Mona space and go drop it in CryptoVoxels? Can I hop between these platforms more seamlessly? I think like the ability to go from one to the other, I think will matter. But then also be able to now have much richer experiences. I think one missing component is the ability to kind of combine, like drop a program and have it run within the space. And what does that mean? There's like 20, 30 years of computer science papers written about how to design virtual worlds where you enable that kind of thing, where like you enable people to interact in these spaces, and how do you, what are like the limitations that you have to put in place so that like people can write different programs and can have them coexist, but it's not like all a mess, right? Like if I go into a room and I can create an experience and write a program and have it run, and you can do the same thing, kind of how to make those things interact safely or something like that. So I think those layers and those building blocks are missing. And then like the ability to kind of bring in other kind of artifacts and objects. So you already have avatars, which is really cool. Being able to add on like wearables for the avatars, or being able to add different artifacts into this, bring artifacts into the room that maybe have some programmability associated with them, like bring in a whiteboard where we can design objects, things together, or bring in being able to like place 2D and 3D digital art, right? So being able to put in pictures and different NFTs. I really look forward to like sculpture. I think sculpture is going to be a really big thing. Like 3D sculpture has been held back by the inability to kind of explore it with other people. And so being able to have a sculpture garden, like the beautiful one that Matt has in the background, and being able to place different 3D artifacts in that space, and letting people come together to navigate that space and look at that art together and talk about it and so on. A huge part of people's experience of art is the ability to experience it together and to reflect on it together, and to talk about it. And I think that this is like one really amazing thing that's going to come out of this. So yeah, look forward to that a lot. I want to be able this year. I want to be able to kind of reach for hanging out in a Mona space before with other people, more than like a Zoom call or something like that. And I think enabling that, if you enable that shift to happen, I think that'll be amazing.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why we're so excited that you and Protocol Labs are decided to sponsor this Renaissance Build-a-thon. This is the opportunity for these builders to create these more and more of these amazing spaces for more of us to hang out inside of Mona, inside of the Monaverse. So really looking forward to hanging out with you in some spaces later on. Would love to learn more too. Why is Protocol Labs interested in the metaverse? Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, great question. So Protocol Labs is an R&D company that's really focused on driving breakthroughs in computing technology, and the transition from the current world of kind of 2D screens and interactions through mostly text and mostly feeds of text messages and videos and a little bit of like video calls needs to give way to a much more human-oriented way of interacting, and that's really it's going to be brought about by having kind of a spatial ways of interacting. So, and we see this very much in video games. Like video games are one of the main things that people do with computers because they provide like for these much more natural experiences you can have, but you have the ability to kind of program those environments. And so things like we're super interested in all kinds of tools and things that enable those kinds of possibilities. And that also includes all the different interfaces. So augmented reality and virtual reality and all of that kind of stuff flows in. But all of this is parts and pieces, and it's all kind of, we're going to build all of this together. And maybe more immediately, we've been working on Web3 for many years, and we build projects and protocols like IPFS and Filecoin and others. And one of the big components there is we're trying to create a much more robust and resilient fabric for information and data on the network, where the people and applications and so on can interact with data in a much more human-oriented way, where it's not about some large centralized data monopoly holding all your data hostage, but instead you can create information and create data objects like a document or a room or some game or an environment, and share with each other, and be able to sort of control how that data moves around, who gets to use it, and so on. And instead of kind of like being held hostage by some data monopoly somewhere out there, be able to interact and share that data with each other. So this is like IPFS and Filecoin and other protocols are entirely about changing the relationship between most people using data on the network to have a much more decentralized and user empowering set of protocols and systems. And we think like that's a much better set of infrastructure for all our digital experience. And so if we can improve the resilience of the internet, if we can improve the capabilities of the applications running on the internet, then all of that is going to be better. And it also happens to be that right now, like the Filecoin network is like this massive storage network that has exabytes of capacity, and we want to fill that with all kinds of super amazing high quality art and imagery, and like 2D art and 3D art and whole spaces and whole experiences and whatnot. I haven't looked at the latest stats, but we have like on the order of like over 15 million NFTs. I think probably by now it's like over 20 or something like that. We need to look at the stats, but that many million NFTs in IPFS and Filecoin. So like all that is really cool. And so we're super interested in enabling many other ways of building all of this tech. So really kind of enabling and highlighting different kinds of use cases. So rooms and games and so on. So if we can enable creators and builders and developers to go make all of that, like that'll be really cool. And we really want to make sure that all this stuff is locked open in the way that the web, like Web 1 was much more open, and in a way that Web 2 wasn't. So we really think it's super critical that people's interactions in these spaces, in these environments, are much more centered around them and their ability to interact with each other, and not sort of whatever kind of some large social network company wants them to do in order to like sell them ads, right? Or like sell them stuff through ads and so on. So we think it's super important right now that we build environments that are controlled by the people, as opposed to environments that are controlled by some ad revenue oriented company.
Well, that's really important, making sure the metaverse stays open, and we're really excited to be here to launch our next build-a-thon, building towards the open metaverse, called the Renaissance. It's our largest one yet, thanks to Protocol Labs. And in terms of the Renaissance, you're well versed in history, and would love to learn why you believe the Renaissance was able to happen, and what kind of spaces enabled that to occur.
Yeah, so I mean, there were a lot of factors leading up to the Renaissance, but one of the really key things was that there were many kind of cultural influences that were able to amplify each other, and the kind of, especially like the Italian Renaissance with like the Italian city-states, they got into this this mode of kind of showing off against each other and kind of prizing some important achievement that they had over another. And so suddenly things like some really important and beautiful and majestic cathedral became kind of like a really nice thing that one city could say they had relative to the other city-states. And this sort of kicked off this like competition over the centuries leading up to the Renaissance, so that by the time that happened, they started happening in a much more diffuse way, with like many artists creating like really beautiful art in one city that then like people from the other city would like go see. And then eventually this became a competition more between the artists themselves being able to kind of like show what they were doing and outdo each other. And this developed into like art schools, and this got all of this got funded by patrons of art, which were like sort of like really instrumental at the time to enable artists to like be able to pursue those careers again, because there was the huge gap between that period and maybe like the classical period, where you could be you could make a lot as an artist before. And so there are a lot of things that can sort of like led up to the amazing period. But I think one of the key elements was being able to kind of value art as a community, being able to kind of experience it together and see it. So being able to display the art, creating galleries, being able to have public sculptures and show that art, being able to create buildings that were artistically inspired, and then be able to have all the funding that was required to like be able to pay a lot of people to focus on that, and not just do that once, but like really focusing on it as a career, and focus their whole life in developing a craft and be able to bet on that as a way to to live and so on. And one of the key things there also was that competitive aspect of like the different schools of art, and the combination of their production of art with the experience of the community, seeing those spaces and so on, seeing those pieces enabled like this just kind of like run of development that just sped up the whole creation of art pieces, because there was a lot of like really good art for centuries before, but like it really sped up in that period because people had the time to do it, people had the funding models to do it, people had the excitement to go and show new pieces and experience them, and that sort of competitive dynamic was really good as well. So I think like if we can lean into that in this Build-a-thon, I think we'll make some like really amazing stuff. And yeah, so one of the really cool things about the Renaissance was also that people started exploring with many different kinds of art. So you had painting, you had sculpture, you had music. You could display all of these pieces. You could have them kind of in conversation with one another. So some painting would inspire a sculpture, and that would inspire a piece of music, and people could experience that together. So in terms of like really inspiring a lot of artists and builders to create the amazing spaces in the metaverse, like creating places where people can gather and talk about ideas, or where people can show their art to others, where you can like display amazing high quality art pieces, or where you can perform different art pieces. So where you can perform music for other people in a space. And so this could be like a club with a DJ, or it could be like an orchestral hall where people get to play different instruments, or it could be a theater where people can perform a play, or it could be things like there are tons of like different kinds of art. And beyond the Renaissance, in the last few hundred years, we've explored a ton of amazing forms of performance, and a lot of them tend to be, we have designed all kinds of physical spaces to help enable those kinds of performances to happen. Massive concert halls and opera houses and theaters of different sorts, like small black box theater, or like a theater in the round, or large proscenium theaters, or things like that, or whole stages or stadiums where people have like massive concerts, right? And so what is the equivalent of that, all of that in the metaverse? Like what kinds of artistic experiences could people have, and what kinds of performances can we bring here? Some low-hanging fruit there is just creating spaces that are fun to hang out in when listening to somebody speak. So for example, enabling something like spoken word, or poetry readings, or like narratives, or talks, or something like that. Like that's super interesting on its own. But then other kinds of I think like the sort of like digital equivalent of clubs, I think should be explored a lot, and like of many different kinds of music and different genres, where you can blend the design of the space with the music. That's something you can do in the metaverse that you can't quite do that is extremely difficult to do in normal physical spaces, because usually clubs that are oriented to certain kinds of genres of music or art can sometimes design the interior of the space, but they can't really kind of shape entire buildings, or it's really expensive to do that. So maybe in the digital world we can do that. We can like explore what it's like to experience certain kinds of music in certain kinds of physical spaces, right? Like should you build like like Escher staircases for like what was like the best music to like couple with an environment like that, or who knows.
Maybe would also like to touch on the option, or the potential for like the programmability of the spaces as well, and like different sort of interactive experiences. We just we're going to be announcing a tiny interactive addition to the space template, which will enable artists to start to program sort of little mini games and things. And so what are some of your hopes and kind of thoughts behind those types of things that could appear in spaces?
Programmability is a key aspect of all of these things, because the ability to perform things, the ability to kind of interact with each other, is all mediated by in the digital landscape. That's mediated by somebody being able to write the code behind those experiences. And so being able to kind of program different kinds of experiences will help those performances or those games and so on. We'll really kind of look forward to what people create here. I think some interesting low-hanging fruit is stuff like being able to create puzzles within an environment, or even like simple platformer style games might be fun to hang out with a bunch of friends in, or even something as simple as having a bunch of objects and with gravity around that you can like throw around, or a ball that you can kick around with people, and like you have like a pseudo soccer style game, or potentially just throwing a frisbee around like an amazingly cool space. Like a lot of people end up doing that as while they're hanging out and talking. And so it's just kind of finding something to do. There's a great talk from Tim Sweeney way back that talked about, VR Rec Room ended up being really successful. And like the main reason that he ascribed to it was just gave you something to do while hanging out with each other and playing with each other. So look forward to, even like very simple kinds of things can help out a lot. Also really look forward to what does it mean to have like a board game night with other people in like a Mona space. That would be like pretty cool to see if we can create like a really high quality, engaging experience that way. So I think like creating spaces that are tuning for that programmability, or being able to dive in and start doing that yourself. Like, for people that kind of want to experiment with that, there's a lot of like really interesting possibilities. You could like play with like tiles on the floor, or like switches that can activate certain behavior in the room and so on. And yeah, there's a lot of possibilities.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there is that programmability bonus prize. So hopefully any of these amazing ideas are going to be great jumping off points and inspiration points for, great places for some of these builders to start. It's amazing. So would also love to ask, what are your hopes for this Build-a-thon?
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest hope is that people get a chance to explore and learn a lot about how to build these spaces, and how to create some a goal here is like to enable creators to kind of find a new medium to express their creativity and to explore a bunch of different possibilities. So I'd really love to see just a lot of experiments, people being able to kind of experiment with a bunch of different kinds of builds and different kinds of rooms. Really kind of like want to explore a very large design space. And I really hope that people have a ton of fun. I think like one of the goals here is like be able to kind of change the economics of creativity so that like people can go and have a lot of fun together building amazing things. And then as people have really high quality experiences with them, people get the reward and value flows can all flow. So really kind of like look forward to being inspired by people's creativity, and really can't wait to see like amazing spaces. I think it'll be really, you're onto something really special when you make something and maybe you showing it off in the room, like in Discord room or something, inspire somebody else to go and make a different thing, and that inspires somebody else, and you get this like chain of creativity happening, and suddenly like the whole community is creating a lot more, many more amazing things. I was just like super blown away by the last Build-a-thon, like the kinds of rooms that got built. Like the backgrounds that we have right now are all Mona spaces that got built in the last Build-a-thon, and they look amazing. Like just being able to go into them and hang out and experience them is super cool. So can't wait to see what happens this year. Sorry, this Build-a-thon. And maybe I would really kind of like love to be able to explore a bunch of really cool spaces with a lot of other people. And so things that kind of enable that shared experience exploration of, again, art pieces like 3D art pieces, or playing a game together or something like that. Also, I wonder if like people should experiment with series. So NFT series are like a big thing because they enable an artist or a small collective of artists to put out a lot of versions of a thing. So for example, like the crypto apes and so on. I think it's the crypto apes, whatever, forget. Like there's a ton of apes now, so like I don't even remember which one's like the original. Are just like that limitation of saying all of these have to follow this like very standard pattern with just a slightly interesting twist to it, is super useful, because it frees you from the requirement of having to make something completely new every time and having to spend that much creative energy every time. And instead it lets you tweak a few things to create another element in a set that is interesting and in conversation with the others. And so this could be like spaces that are pretty similar, but maybe like decorated differently, or spaces that are just the color palettes are different, or spaces where like there's like mostly the same space, but there's a different kind of sculpture in it, or where the interaction is different, or where gravity is different, or like different kinds of things like that might be super interesting to play around with. And so I think like maybe like really encourage people to try out like what might be like a good series and like experiment with that. And I think that could be also really good for the space, because if you can create a series, then it doesn't require as much effort to make a lot of rooms, and so you can you also can mint those and sell them to collectors for smaller prices, which might encourage a lot more participants to buy those and experience them and whatnot. So I think stuff like that could be really cool.
The series idea, that's a really great idea. I hope there's some builders here taking notes, because that's a really great way. Like you said, like you could swap out like small elements or changing a texture on something, and you could very quickly, very easily get up to even a smaller series, but a series of 10 spaces. And then you have like a little mini collection. That's a great idea.
Yeah, like the CryptoPunks were really cool for giving enough character to each punk with just a few pixel changes. But like, you know, the creativity came into was enabled by that limitation, right? So think of like interesting limitations for a space that suddenly like the amount of effort to change something isn't that much, but it is like much more interesting for some reason.
And certainly don't forget, you can connect this series together with the portals. The portals are really a key feature of this. You can start wiring them together.
So to close this out, we'll drop a final question. If you were a builder building a space for the Renaissance, what would you like to see built and how might you approach it?
So if I were a builder and I was building some spaces, I would really try to I'm really excited about a lot of music oriented spaces, and I think like you showed me that deadmau5 space where I don't know if this is public yet but great, it's public, awesome. So you showed me that deadmau5 space, and it's so cool to be able to drop in. And there's something about the music level, like it's like pretty loud, it feels like a club. It's immediately in 1 second you get a totally different experience. And so I would love to see people play around with stuff like that. And there's just so much that you can go into. Like you can experiment with all kinds of different forms of music, different genres, and see how that blends into the space. So I would go and experiment with rooms like that, that enable that. I would also try to like get it so that whoever was around could influence the space or could influence the music, whether it's like they can take turns to DJ or something, like try to find a way of like hooking up the room to some ability to change the songs, or enable people to like in where how their interaction is changing the music. So for example, you could play with generative music that then responds to the people in the space. So you could have like you could take into account, you could generate music based on where people are standing or what people are doing, or like whether people are running around. And so you could like automatically auto-generate a soundtrack for whatever people are doing, which might be super interesting. Like if everyone's only like is running around, and maybe it like builds up with excitement. And then if people like, stop, it like, fades out or something. I don't know. I think I would love to kind of experiment with all that sort of stuff.
I love that. That would be incredible. Again, I mean, I'm taking notes myself. These are some ideas I would love to explore personally. This is so exciting. Juan, we just want to thank you so much. It's been a true pleasure having you here. Thank you for your time and chatting through some of these topics and giving builders some more inspiration as they launch into this next Build-a-thon. So a huge thank you, and a huge thank you, for sponsoring with Protocol Labs. Really, really grateful for it, and it's a huge opportunity for all creators. So, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a a privilege to be able to work on this with you, and with all of the creators. I look forward to meeting a ton of folks over the Build-a-thon, hanging out in Discord. I'm around, and so maybe we can do some like show and tells later on, and explore some of the spaces as people are building them. Yeah, really look forward to what everybody is working on, and we're like building the future together, right? So the amazing thing about Web3 is that it is a dramatically more people-oriented technological revolution, where many creators and many builders everywhere are helping shape the future. So I'm really excited to get to do this with you, and yeah, look forward to hanging out. Thanks.
Thank you to Juan Benet, and thank you to our presenting sponsor, Protocol Labs and Filecoin. Now we've talked about $250,000 in prizes. We wanted to talk about what the prizes are. So here's what you can win and how. The top prizes are $30,000 each, and the total prize money is going to be $250,000. The top 18 virtual environment designs will be minted on the blockchain. You have a choice of minting on Ethereum or Polygon, And these spaces as NFTs will be purchased by Protocol Labs. Those are the top winning 18 spaces. People over the age of 18 of any profession and from any country in the world can enter. After the top 3 prizes, we have the top 5 prizes, which are going to be $10,000 each. And then we have 10 prizes of $3,000 each. We have 20 prizes of $1,000 each, 100 prizes of $300 each, and then we have the Interactivity Bonus Prize. 15 of those will be getting $1,000 each, and then we have the Community Helper Bonus Prize. 15 of those will be getting $1,000 each. It's important to note that only the top 3 prize tiers will be required to be minted as an NFT. So only the prize tiers that are $30,000, $10,000, and $3,000 will be required to be minted as an NFT and be purchased by Protocol Lab. You'll want to check out the full description of all the prizes in our documentation. So remember, this is an investment in you, the builders, the creators who are helping us to build the open metaverse. We want you to remember that you are loved. You are going to make it. We're all going to make it. This is a time for all of us to rise. So with that, we want to wish everyone happy building. We're so excited that you're here. So we'll see you in Discord. We're looking forward to working closely and getting to know each and every one of you over the next few weeks. Thank you everyone for watching. And until next time, we'll see you in the Monaverse.